Well, welcome to those of you who are watching this video as part of the Midlife and Thriving newsletter. We're all about guiding midlife women back to the most important relationship of their lives, and that's the one with themselves, so that they can thrive and flourish and show up in the world being their beautiful, brilliant selves. And joining me this month is the gorgeous, lovely Lucy Buxton, who is a fabulous life coach. She is also an NLP trainer, hypnotherapist. She has so much wealth of experience around the social care space, but is now working with diverse industries or in diverse industries, really helping people get back to the happy, joyful life space that they want to be in, where they can thrive. So all good vibes coming from Lucy. Lucy, welcome to this month's newsletter.
Oh, thank you for being here. I think I want to steal everything you've just said because, you sum me up just beautifully.
You are welcome. You are welcome to take it. And so Lucy and I's history, we actually met through LinkedIn, I believe. I think I contacted you to come on my radio show. Goodness knows how long ago that was. And I've kind of liked to keep an eye on what Lucy has been doing, and she has worked in this space, and whilst the newsletter is talking about us breaking that grip of service to others all the time, above and beyond our own needs, I know that in the social care space, it's almost like an expectation in that industry to put everything and everyone above self. And I feel that we really need to, that is a conversation we need to have. It's, and how do we help those people who are in that position, who are living that, and who are literally losing the will to live in the process. And Lucy, I know that this is an area that you have lots of knowledge and expertise in, and I'm sure that you have lots of stories that you can share. And maybe that's a good place to start is, one, that draw of women into the social care space and how they end up almost losing themselves in that space.
I think it's really interesting. I mean, I've been around social care for, I don't know, is it 34, 35 years now, something like that. And I reflect back, my nan was a nurse, and it was always in me. So how much is it for me was part of my purpose, what I was always going to do to care for others. Now, how much of it was around societal roles because I'm a female? And if I think about my mum, I can remember her talking about the things she wanted to do. And being the eldest child and being a girl, well, she was told that she could only be a hairdresser or admin or, she could be a nurse as well. So how much of it is that society has kind of pushed and encouraged women into these roles of service? And then how much of it is because of our feminine characteristics and abilities, specifically with regards to empathy, intuition, that kind of, you joke about nurses' instinct, but that's actually just something we've all got. It's just that you could suggest that some people don't access that ability, or that society hasn't allowed or encouraged certain proportions of society to access that ability.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really interesting. So, I mean, one of the things that I was looking at, and I've kind of included this in the newsletter anyway, is just some of the statistics, because I think that this was quite eye-opening even for myself, and I do like to keep an eye on this on these things. But women make up over 90% of the workforce in the childcare sector and 80% of the adult care sector. Collectively, they provide £283 billion worth of unpaid childcare each year and 50 billion worth of unpaid adult care. That is mind-blowing. That is
Mm-hmm.
mind-blowing. And of course, these services are needed, and this is not anti-social care. We need care. Everybody needs to be doing some care. We all need to be contributing in that way. However, what I have seen time and time again, and I have friends who work in the health care sector and the social care sector, is that they end up literally putting themselves, I'm not even going to say at the bottom of their list. I don't even know if they're even on their list. I don't even know if it's even a consideration sometimes. And that's an issue, because obviously that's the stuff that leads to burnout, high stress, other health challenges and issues, which means we're depleting, apart from depleting themselves, they're then depleting themselves of the ability to do the work that they have either signed up to do because they want to, or have felt pushed to do through society. So how do we, yeah, and I'm asking this kind of like really just openly, Lucy, where do we even begin to unpack that and start to help those people, those women, to understand the importance of putting their needs first?
So I think there's two approaches. There's the individual basis to look at yourself, but then there's the second approach is to look at the bigger picture. So you've obviously got detail and then you've got bigger picture. If we come from a bigger picture perspective and look at the world as a whole, the fact that in many cultures, women's role is not perceived or held with equal regard for the male role. As such, we live in a predominantly male-driven world with male leaders, where the male characteristics are encouraged. So the drive, the push, the to-do, the build, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So I think there's that. I think there's the acknowledgement of that. And I think there's the historical acknowledgement that we have to do around women and the perception and the roles that have been placed on them by society historically. Now we could go back hundreds of years, and take things like a man could be a doctor, but if a woman practiced medicine, she was a witch.
Yes.
In this country.
Yes.
Men could talk and communicate whatever they wanted. Hundreds of years ago, if a woman spoke out of turn or literally spoke too much, they'd have been put in a metal mask where they wouldn't have been able to speak.
Yeah.
So we've got to look back to look forward.
Yes.
And that's where the individual perspective comes in. And it's where women and girls of all generations, all cultures, need to look at this and need to start to find the value in themselves. Start to raise that. I was speaking to a team of staff from a care home some weeks back, and we were talking about the value that we place in ourselves and the importance of that being the most important relationship. And one of them sat there and she went, "Gosh, I didn't realise. My mum never, ever supported me to acknowledge the value in me as an individual, never mind the value of me as a female or a woman." So if I've got to care for people and I don't value me, but I value caring for them, of course I'm going to put them in front of me.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you say that, because I started working with somebody recently, a new coaching client, and exactly the same experience. The whole point of trying to equate intrinsic value was just like completely out there for her. It was just like, no, I could only have value if I was kind to everybody else, if I did what everybody else wanted of me. And they were all the messages she got from her parents as she was
Be a good girl.
Yes, just be good, be nice, and do as you're told, and just do what people need under any circumstances. So there wasn't even any, boundaries around that, around apart from if somebody, or there was nothing. So she has literally spent her whole life at the service of others to the detriment of her own well-being. And it, and a part of me is just like, every time I meet a woman and we have the conversation and they share that story, I'm just like, it's almost like, this is bonkers. How are we so, as you said, like, there's so much information that can be accessed, but still like miles apart. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, there's all the information, but people are still caught up. But like you said, it's so deeply rooted. If you're thinking 100 years ago, being masked, being literally shut down and shut up from speaking, that is what's been embodied. That's kind of what we're carrying.
So let's bring it closer to home.
Mm.
It's in my lifetime that they got rid of the rule of thumb, where a man was allowed to beat his wife with a stick as long as it was no thicker than his thumb. And it was only, I think, and I can't remember the year, the late 70s potentially, where it became illegal for a man to force his wife to have sex with him. How does that work? I'm sorry. But this is the narrative that we've grown with. This is the trauma that's been passed through generations. And this is why we're seeing so many women being burnt out, struggling, can't cope. This is why historically, my mum gave up work when she was pregnant. She had to. She wasn't allowed to work being pregnant. I mean, she wasn't even allowed to go in a pub on her own. And my mum was born back into the Second World War.
Mm.
So, this isn't too far away in the history of our kind of evolution. And if I look at the narratives and the things that my mom told me and passed down to me, and the difference that I as a mom now pass down to my daughter, and how, my daughter came back yesterday and she said to me, she said, "Mum, have I lost weight recently?" And I said, "Well, I don't think you've lost any more, like, since you've left home." And she said, "Well, it's interesting," she said, "because since I've lost more weight, I've got more attention from men."
Wow.
How does that work? I need to be seen for me as a person. It doesn't matter what this body is. It's what's inside that matters. And it's that bit that has been controlled. It's that bit that's been broken. It's that bit that's been traumatized. It's been that bit that's been led to believe things that are not true.
Yeah, absolutely. And sadly, that dialogue just there is not rare. That's pretty commonplace. That value of how other people perceive you to be, and certainly in my work, in my world around self-care, that relationship with self, nothing outstrips it, nothing beats it, because until you value who you are on an intrinsic level, you're living kind of like in a shadow, and you're living a shadow of yourself, because the power that you have when you begin to value who you are, what has been placed inside you, you don't have to do anything to earn it. It's just there. That for me is like, that's the goal for me. That's where I want to get women to be, and men. I mean, don't get me wrong, because men have another dialogue that also needs to be dealt with.
So this makes me think of something back again, bigger picture. Divide. We divide men and women.
Yes.
And they're polarized. They're not together. When we're together, we're stronger. Color, culture, sexuality. There are all ways for people to be divided and not to be strong as a collective.
Yeah. Completely. I have these conversations quite often, and I'm just saying you have to the society, the way that it's been set up, is all about divide and conquer, because if we're
Mhm,
divided, how much easier are we to control?
mhm,
That's a fact, right? The more
mhm.
divided we are, the easier we are to control. So men against women, color, as you said, culture, ethnicities, um, gender, everything that can possibly, religion,
Oh,
everything that can
colour!
possibly, yeah, color.
Literally, the
Yes,
colour!
yes, it's bonkers.
Simply 'cause
Um,
I'm blonde.
indeed, indeed. So these are, these are the fundamentals. And the thing is, I'm sure people will listen and they'll say, yeah, I get it, and I hear it. But and that's great. Get it, hear it, be really aware of it, because not everybody is. But if you are,
Mhm.
fantastic. But what do we do about it?
Yeah.
What's the action that we take? What can we do? Because I know that when you look at the whole thing, it's like, well, what difference can I make? I'm only one person. But if we keep on thinking like that, nothing changes. So how do we bring about changes in this space of getting people back to valuing themselves from the inside out, without any of what I have to do to get, and also that unification, that coming together, because that for me is massive. The coming together bit is huge.
I'm excited about that bit. I can see it happening. I'm excited about that. So I've got 2 things here. Control you, influence others.
Mm,
I think that's quite powerful. And one
yeah,
of the really simple ways we can build that control us down is let's make that into, say, 3 building blocks. So the first one at the bottom is the body.
yeah,
So that's the body of me as a person. That's my physical body, my spiritual body, my emotional body, my mental body, my social, my environmental, my financial body. Me, just me, nobody else. And I work through all those elements to be the best. And if my physical body is not good, then I need to do something to help improve that. But if that's impacting on my mental body, then I need to do something to work on that. Only when I'm working on all of that can I then build my relationship with things that are outside of me.
yes, yes,
Because I might reflect things that are inside of me and project them onto the world around me. So I said to you, didn't I? I said, oh, I think I need to. I've got a consultant's appointment for my HRT and my nightmare menopause. And I said, didn't I? I said, I've become a right grumpy madam the last few days. I think my HRT needs going up. So I've recognized that in me. I've recognized I'm tired. And
yes,
it's a different tired. I've recognized that emotionally I'm not feeling. I know my optimum, and because I recognize that, I check in with myself. And then I guess I have that responsibility to do something about that. And that responsibility comes from the fact of I'm me and I'm important and I matter to me. But then I have a home to pay for. I have grown children who are flying the nest. And I have a job to do. I have a role in the world. I have a purpose. How can I do all of that effectively if I don't put me in the center of my world?
yeah. Beautifully said, Lucy. Beautifully said, because that's the whole point. And it rips away all of that language about selfishness and being self-centered and all of the stuff that gets thrown in when you start talking about being at the center of. There is nothing about that that's about being selfish. Certainly my own experience is that when I am feeling at my optimum, at my best, I can do more, I can give more, I can support more. There's more love, there's more graciousness, there's all of that. That comes in abundance. when I am in my full capacity, when I am feeling whole.
And when you're in your full capacity of love, empathy, care, inspiration, knowledge, guidance, you then influence others, and then somebody else catches what you have. And then they start to do it, then somebody else does. And what that does then is breaks down divide and pulls people together, which is why there are so many narratives in society to keep us divided.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Love it. I love it, Lucy. I love it, because this is the work. This is the work. And I have this absolute I mean, I feel quite emotional now. This absolute feeling in the center that just says, this is it. This is it. We have to come back to ourselves to build all of that thing that Lucy has taught the body. How are we in these different areas? Fuel ourselves, fill ourselves up. When people see that and feel it, because actually more often than not, when I go out, people are just like, wow, there's an energy that comes with that. When people feel it, they want that. And that's, as you said, that becomes the ripple effect and the knock-on effect in how we start to come together in power. Wow. Yes.
You just said energy. We raise our vibration.
Yes. Yeah.
And energy is, it moves, we give it, we take it. It can be taken from us, but we can also grow it too. And in these roles where we're constantly giving, people used to say, don't pour from an empty cup. Okay, you can't pour from an empty cup. I actually say you can't pour from a cup unless you have an abundant flow. Because I can have a cup and pour from it and then it's empty. So unless my cup is having constant flow back into it, replenishment, unless a riverbed has more water coming into it, it dries out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So we have all of these women who have all of these narratives and constructs and things that they have been told, that have been given to them through no choice of theirs.
Yes.
It's been passed down. It's changed our neurology on a fundamental level with the trauma that generations have been through across the world.
Yes.
And then we go and we give to others, still running the narrative of service. And it's no wonder women are exhausted. It's no wonder we're having horrific menopauses. It's no wonder why we're having so many more things popping up that we didn't see before. We've got so many articles in the paper about cancers in young adults and things. And there's so much in the food chain that's not healthy for us. And that's because we're so exhausted. We reach for the easy stuff, the quick fixes, the addictive stuff, the stuff with the sugars and the fructose and all this sort of stuff that then alters the way that our brains work. And it's just this constant hustle of go, 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 and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
Yeah.
And someone has to give.
It is. I mean, actually, even as we're talking now, Lucy, and just really kind of having that breaking it down, you just think this is absolutely bonkers that we've got here, because it absolutely is. And I think it's important just to say this is, don't, if you're listening, this is not an opportunity for you to start blaming yourself for.
Oh no, absolutely.
We're not going up that road or down that road, because that can sometimes come up. It's like, oh, how did I know? No, this is not about that. What it is about is understanding from this day forth, you first. You first, because the difference that will make in all areas of your life, the difference it will make in the service you give. And you will know how and when to set boundaries. When you are fully and deeply in touch with yourself, setting boundaries is not a big deal. It happens because you just know. Nobody gets to take advantage. But that, for me, that absolutely is that relationship back to self, coming back to self, and really tapping into that value that was put inside of you from day dot. It's there, it's innate. So anyway, it's okay, because I feel like I could talk with you for a million years, see, and just keep going. So I'm just going to say, so parting words, what if anyone's listening to this and they're feeling like, well, God, I've been doing most of those things and I've been just giving, depleting myself, giving, depleting myself. What's the first thing that you would say to do?
So what I would say is, you need to ask yourself, are you okay with that? Because if you are okay with that, then that's okay, because that's what's right for you right now. If you're not okay with that and you are finding yourself having enough, then just little things that you can do. Just take a snapshot of yourself, a mental snapshot of what you're like on a good day and what you're not like when you're not on a good day, and just kind of just check in with yourself. Do really simple, basic things. Get out in nature. Take your shoes off. Go and walk on that grass. Feel the earth. Get it in your bones.
Yeah.
And just really simple things. But I would just say, just purely just tuning in and reflecting on the conversation that we've had today, that's a good enough start.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have these conversations, because we need to have them. We need to keep on having them, so that we can keep on opening our eyes, opening our ears, opening our hearts, and then doing something for ourselves and then each other, so that this becomes this really powerful movement of change, that we all, and I don't know a woman who, I don't know personally a woman who doesn't want it. It's just that we're not all tapped into it. And the reality is, what we do now will affect the next generation. I have a son and a daughter-in-law, but I also have 2 grandchildren, one boy and one girl. I want all of them to thrive. And that means that all of this breaking down and all this breaking up of people, as Lucy so beautifully said earlier, this separating out has got to stop. It has to stop. It has to stop.
Yeah. I think it will. I think we're not far off that happening. I can see, and I would suggest probably more clearly in the last couple of months. Only this morning I looked on social media, and the things that I'm seeing, and it's like, is everybody just suddenly got the memo?
We hope so.
Memo. I mean, whoever started to circulate this memo, it's incredible. We only have to see what happened yesterday in the news about the smoking thing. And yes, it might be the right thing to do, but it's so divisive.
Yes.
And when you look at it and you go, okay, so now we're going to put smokers against non-smokers. And the ones that are potentially the worst are the reformed smokers. And then we're going to create even further divide now.
Absolutely.
And you're just like, okay,
yeah,
this needs to stop.
Absolutely. And that's, the truth is there'll always be something that can be used to divide. Yeah. Therefore, we absolutely have the responsibility to say, that's not a path for me. I value myself and I value my fellow human beings enough to actually just be respectful of our differences and the things that are the same, and find ways to do harmony, because harmony is where the joy is. There is no joy in hate.
We need to come from a place of love, not
Yes.
greed.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful. Ah, goodness. Woo! I am feeling the conversation literally in my heart. I am feeling that. Lucy, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me for this conversation.
You're
It has
welcome.
been it's just a deep reminder of where we are, where we're going, because we are going there, folks.
Yeah, we're going
What the
there.
role we all need to play in order to get there. So, Lucy, thank you so much.
You're welcome.